about graphs, learning how to look at them and read them. And before we start, I want us to look up here at the smart board. And what is a graph? Let's look and see if we can find the graph. Graph?
No.
Graph?
No.
Graph?
No.
Graph?
Yes.
Awesome. So here's a graph. This is an example of a tally mark graph, and we've been using those in our small group stations this week. So let's review our math vocabulary. We are going to mirror me.
Mirror me.
Mirror with words.
Mirror words.
Graph.
Graph.
A way to organize data.
A way to organize data.
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 Facts or information.
Facts or information.
Survey.
Survey.
A collection of data.
A collection of data.
Categories.
Category.
A group of similar things.
A group of similar things.
So, a graph is a way to organize data. So here are some different graphs that show the organization of data. We've got a circle graph. We use it when we look at our dojo points and see how many positive or negatives we have. It shows us the percentage of how much we've gotten. We have a line graph, a pictograph, and a bar graph is what we're going to talk more about today. We are going to learn how to organize, represent, and interpret data into multiple categories on a bar graph. This is going to help us to be able to see the information more quickly and provide us with better answers. So, I want us to say our I can statement. I can use graphs to measure and interpret data. So let's look at the parts of a bar graph. On a bar graph, we have our title. Every graph needs a title to be able to show you what it is. We have our numbers on the side that let us know how many items were in the survey or in the graph from our surveys. And then we have our categories down here at the bottom. So a bar graph uses bars, you see the bars, to show a picture of the data that was collected. So let's talk about that. How do I read a bar graph? So we have two different bar graphs, one where the information is going up and down. And Adelaide, we have another one that's going across, okay? All the information is the same, but just how we look at it and read it is different. Your categories are at the bottom on the up and down, and our categories are on the side going across. It has the numbers at the bottom, side to side, numbers on the side for going up and down. Any questions? So let's read some of the parts of our bar graph. Can someone tell me on our students' favorite juices, how many students like orange juice? Belania?
4.
4 people like orange juice? Okay, come up here and stand for me. Why don't you come up here? So let's go find orange. Go ahead, stand up there. It's okay. All right, so find orange. All right, now let's look out to the side and see where the orange stops. Let's look over and see which number. 8. So how did you figure that out?
Because I figured out 4 was already all the way down here and 8 was up.
Okay, so here, why don't you pick up that blue? Why don't you draw across from 8 in that line so that everybody can kind of see how you... All right, do you see what she did?
Yes.
So she looked at orange juices and went all the way to the top where the bar stopped and then went across to see how many people voted for orange juice as their favorite juice. Very good, Flanny, thank you. All right, let's see, someone else. Hunter, why don't you come up and tell me, let's look over here at this graph, how many people like rock music? Let's look at that one. Rock music. How many people like rock music? Very good. How did you figure that out, Hunter?
Because when you make a line down, you can see it.
So he found rock music and he went to the end of the bar graph and then he followed it down to the number to see how many people. You want to circle that number? Show everybody. 7 students voted as rock as their favorite kind of music. Good job, Hunter.
Can I write a line down to the
Yes, you can. No, do the green. Thank you. There you go. All the way down. Good job. All right. So those are the different ways that you can look at a graph and understand how to find your answers for when we're answering our questions later. Where you look and how you read a bar graph, okay? All right, hands are down. So how do I make a graph? First, you have to take a survey. Remember, a survey is your collection of information. Then you have to find out, well, what kind of information are you wanting to know? Today, for making our graph, what is our favorite flavor of ice cream? Chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry? So let's go ahead and let's make a graph and vote on our favorite flavor of ice cream. So who can tell me where the title needs to go? Lynn?
at the top.
At the top. So let's put that. Favorite ice cream. Okay. Now, I need to put my categories. Where am I going to put my categories? Aiden?
At the bottom.
At the bottom. Very good. So we have chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. So let's vote. How many of my friends like chocolate? Okay, I've got one friend. Why don't you come on up, Peyton, and fill in one for chocolate for me. Show us how we are going to do that. Choose any color you want. Perfect. Good job. All right. Thank you, Peyton. Okay. What about vanilla? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, Heidi.
Wait.
Why don't you come up and color in 7 for me? Okay, 1. Here you go. 2. 3. 4. 5. There you go. 6. And 7. Good job. All right. Thank you, Heidi. What about strawberry? How many people like strawberry? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Chase, why don't you come up and do 5 strawberries for me? Put your hand. Yeah, there you go. You don't have to do the whole thing, just a little bit. There you go. So that's 1. There you go. Good job. 2, 3, 4, and 5. job. All right, so now let's interpret our data. I need to find out how many, or who had the most votes. I want to find out how many had the most votes. So to do that, I'm going to go over here to the side, and I'm going to fill in my number line, okay? I'm going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So I'm going to look and see how many people, or which one had the most votes. Riley?
Vanilla.
Vanilla? How did you know that so quickly?
Because I look up and I see is the bigger one.
This one had the most, right? It's the one that had, it's taller than the other one. So that one we know, Vanilla had the most votes. Very good. What about the fewest, the least amount of votes? Janelle?
Chocolate.
Chocolate. How did you know that so fast?
Because I looked at the box right there and I went.
It only had 1 vote. It was the only one. And you can see by looking at the graph that it had the smallest amount. What if I need to find out how many students voted all together? How would I figure that out? Adelaide?
You could count it by 1 and then add more.
So we need to count all of these votes together? All right, so let's do that. I'm going to use my black. And will y'all count along with me as I mark my boxes? Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So how many people voted all together? Chloe?
13.
13 people voted for their favorite ice cream flavor. Very good. That was one way for us to count our votes. Is there another way that we could count our votes? What is another way that we could count the votes? London?
In tens,
How would you do that?
5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30.
We could, yeah, we could do that. But what about, is there some way that I can take one of these numbers and start up from there?
10.
Can I take the one that had the most and can I count up from there? Can I do that? Hey, Eric, would you like to help me demonstrate that? So how many voted for vanilla? Do you remember? 7, very good. So let's pull 7 out of the air. You ready? 7, 8, 9, 10. Sorry. Hold on. 11, 12, 13. So that's another way, thank you, Eric, of being able to find our answer and finding it quickly, okay? So, great job, guys. I am very proud of y'all. So now, why do you think it's important for us to organize and interpret data? Where have we seen a graph? Who can tell me some places that they've seen a graph before? Gianna? Where have you seen a graph before? On your mom's phone? And what was she using that graph? How did that graph help her?
She was seeing how much protein or sugar she should eat.
Awesome. So Gianna's mom was using a graph to help her know how much protein and sugar, Chase, that she was getting in a day. So now this is what I would like for y'all to do. Your goal is going to be to organize and interpret the data given to you and create a graph, okay? So, I want you to look at the questions that you're going to answer after you interpret your data. You graph and interpret it. Number 1, which had the most? You're going to write and tell me which votes had the most. Number 2, which had the least, the smallest amount of votes. And then number 3 is how many people completed the survey. That means how many people voted all together. So, are you ready to try this on your own?
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome job. All right, when I snap my fingers, face your desks. Awesome. Now, at each of your groups, you have a graph, you have markers, and you have your data. You're each going to have a job to where one person sorts the data, another person is going to graph the data, and then another person is going to write the answers to interpret your data. Okay? Now, you're going to all discuss and can help each other answer the questions. All right, are we ready?
Yes.
Does anybody have any questions?
No.
Okay. When I call your row, you're going to stand, come to your desk and stand behind your chair and wait for me to come and give you your job. Are you ready?
Yes.
Red, purple. Thank you for those nice manners. Orange and blue. And green. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Felania. Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Adelaide. Good job to my friends who went and stood behind their chair waiting for directions. Okay. All right, are you ready? All right, sort, color, answer. You may begin. Sort, color, answer. You may begin. All right, ready? Sort, color, answer, begin.
Sort, color.
All right, are you ready? You want to sort? Color, answer, sort. Begin. Color, answer, sort.
You had it right the first time. You had it right. That's right. Janelle, you're confusing her. Better cut that out.
Okay, hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Okay, my turn. Oh, we forgot one.
Wash your face and get some water.
Okay.
Go get some water, wash your face.
I'm trying to cut it.
Sorting.
You put the salad. How many?
Tell Hunter you started.
No, I'm not doing no.
You have them sorted?
Chili.
Right, so 6 chilies, okay.
6 of them. That's 6 of them. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Alright, you all sorted?
Go ahead and library is 4. How many? 4 stars. Maybe you can work on it at home.